Hello everyone, this is Thomas, one of the co-creators of the Japan Archives. Just a quick thing before you get into these first few episodes of our podcast. We're a few months into making this show now. I am recording this particular bit in January 2020, many months after our first episode has aired. And Heather and myself just want to say that if you want to see if this podcast is for you, if the editing, storytelling, and sound quality is enough to keep you around, then perhaps skip ahead to our most recent episodes to see where we are at, and then work your way backwards. Of course, if you don't wish to do that, that's all good. Just be gentle with our episodes until our most recent ones in January 2020. We've come a long way and have made many improvements, so if you listen to these first few and think it might not be good enough for your ears, go on. Perhaps skip ahead to our most recent. Anyway, guys, that's enough from me. On with the show. You can see me okay?
You look delightfully beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
What episode is this? I don't want to say the wrong number.
6.
Episode 5.
Episode 5.
Maybe we'll just not do the episode numbers ever.
No!
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Japan Archives.
No, we gotta talk about the show. Welcome to Japan Archives. Bite-sized nibbles of Japanese history, mythology.
Bite-sized nibbles. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to the Japan Archives. We're a podcast that do bite-sized nibbles of Japanese history and mythology every week. We hope you enjoy the episode, so let's get into it.
You can do it.
7月7日は七夕です。これは七夕の話です。
昔々、国神様が言んでいました。娘が一人いて、名前は織姫でした。ある日、神様は思いました。
織姫はもう大人だ。結婚した方がいいだろう。Okay, guys, so we attempted to say in Japanese for you the beginning of a story relating to the goddess known as Orehime. Now, Orehime relates to the festival of Tanabata, which is a festival held every year in Japan in July.
Oh, some places do August. Some prefectures actually do August too.
Yeah, so Tanabata is traditionally held in Japan on the 7th of July. However, some hold the festival on a few days around the 7th of August. But Heather, have you ever been to a Tanabata festival before? Because I actually haven't, and I feel like I'm missing out.
Gina, I have not either. The only thing I've done for Tanabata has been writing my wishes on the paper. I did that at my schools last year, and I actually did that at a cake shop recently. When I went to pick out a cake, they gave me a little star to write my Tanabata wish on.
Oh, cool. Is it okay for me to ask what you wished for? Or is it a secret?
It's not a secret. I wish for peace and happiness for everyone on Earth.
Oh, okay. That's a nice wish.
I think it's a very important wish, so thank you. I'm hoping it comes true.
Yes. So before we go into the story of Tanabata, which we read for you first in Japanese, I wanted to, at least for you, Heather, explain the origins of the festival. Now, the festival can find its origins from China. It was originally inspired by a Chinese folk tale called The Cowherd and the Weaver Girl. And some versions of this story have been included in the Manyoshu, which we have mentioned before, which is the big compendium of Japanese poetry. But the festival first came to Japan in 755 AD during the reign of the Empress Koken.
So what period is that?
You asked me the one thing when I closed my notes. So for this Empress Koken in 755 AD, that would fall under the period known as the Nara period. So when the capital of Japan was in what is now Nara City.
Ah, thank you. Huh.
So it was introduced quite early into Japan, but eventually gained widespread popularity by the time we reached the Edo period which began in 1603, lasting until the mid-1800s. But as it developed, it became mixed with different Japanese festivals, such as the Obon Festival.
So when is Obon? I'm challenging you today. I'm so sorry.
So Obon is traditionally held around August time.
Is it August 16th?
For this year, at least 2019, it will be held on the 15th of August, whereas last year it was held on the 25th of August.
Ah, I think I've forgotten it was the 25th.
So yeah, we've talked about how the festival first came to Japan. So now that we've read part of the story in Japanese, I want to explain to you the story in English. So there's a goddess Orihime in the story, and her name would translate to something like Weaving Princess. And she was the daughter of a god called Tentei, which would mean something like Sky King. Now Orihime spent most of her days on the banks of the Amanogawa River, which is basically the Milky Way, where she would weave together beautiful clothing, because that is what she was very skilled at doing. Her father loved everything she made, as she was very skilled in what she did. However, ultimately Orihime was very sad, because she was always working, she was always weaving these clothes, so she felt that she would never find anyone or meet someone that she could fall in love with, which is, in my opinion, is quite a sad story, just at least to start off with.
Yeah.
Now, her father notices his daughter's concerns and her worries, so he arranges for her to meet a god called...
Hikoboshi.
Yes, Hikoboshi, which would literally translate to something like the Cowman Star or Boy Star. But there are other tales in which he is also called Gengyu, the Gyu part of his name being the kanji for cow.
Cow. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. I did not know that.
So this god that she has been planned to meet up with, he lives on the other side of the river. So basically these two deities live on the opposite ends of the Milky Way. They finally meet and they instantly fall in love with each other. And because of this, they marry shortly after. But obviously now that she is married, she has a husband, she's now living with him. She no longer has the time to weave all the cloth that she is famous for, that she's very skilled in making. So her father, even though he has put these two together, becomes very angry and separates them once more. So once again, they're living at the opposite ends of the river. They're living at opposite ends of the Milky Way. And he basically forbids them to ever meet. They're never going to be able to see each other again.
Oh, that's so sad.
However, his daughter, being quite sad about this fact, she approaches her father and she begs him, she pleads with him to allow them to meet one more time. He relents, moved by his daughter's sadness. As you know, initially he got them together because he saw that his daughter was sad. So to see her filled with sorrow once more, it moves him. So he agrees, and he says that the two of them can meet once more on the 7th day of the 7th month. But only if she works really hard and finishes the weaving that needs to be done by that day. So she works hard, she works diligently, she finishes all her weaving, and the day arrives for the two of them to meet. However, they then find out that they cannot meet, they cannot cross the Milky Way because there is no bridge. There's no access for them to meet each other. Which is very interesting when you consider that this is the first time there's a mentioning of a bridge, so how they initially met is not mentioned, it's not covered.
That's a really good question. So they got separated, but now they can't cross. How'd they get over the river in the first place?
Well, exactly like I said, there's no mentioning of it, but I feel that sometimes in like tales relating to mythology, there's going to be inconsistencies that you just have to work through and sometimes just outright ignore.
Suspension of disbelief.
Yes, you can't overanalyze mythological tales too much because they will ultimately fall apart and they will become meaningless.
This is true. I'm still trying to picture like the cows in heaven and where the cows are and how do the cows eat in the stars? That's a good question.
Well, they're magic sky cows. They can eat whatever they want, Heather. Don't question it.
Magic sky cows. Gotcha.
So we've mentioned the magic sky cows and the fact that there is no bridge. So Orehime, she cries again, but she cries so much that a flock of magpies come and promise that they will build a bridge for her using their wings so that she can cross the river and they can ultimately meet. Now, these magpies, I assume, are magic sky magpies, just like the cows. It's not explained where they come from or how they live there in the Milky Way. But yes, so the magic sky magpies agree to make a giant bridge across the Milky Way for the two of them to meet, and so they can walk across the bird's wings to meet up one day a year.
I now see the origins of a lot of fairy stories, especially like Disney stories, where the heroine seems to call many forest animals to come and assist her. I see where the origins of that come from now.
You're saying Disney got their ideas from this story?
Partially. Possibly.
Potentially, right here, the origins of Disney princesses singing to nature or being sad and nature answering their every need. However, there was one more problem with this entire meeting, and that is if it should rain on the day of the Tanabata festival, the magpies would not be able to help them, because if it rains, the river would rise, meaning that the river would be too tall for the magpies to make this bridge that they promised to build, meaning that she would potentially have to wait another year. So it could be 2, 3, even 4 years until they could meet again if it should rain on this one day her father said they could meet once more. So because of this, if it should rain on a Tanabata day, the rain was given a special name, which is the Tears of Orehime and Hikoboshi.
You would wonder if there was a rain. You would wonder if there was a rain delay that her father would allow them to meet on the next day. But no. Oh, sorry, it rained. You're going to have to wait a whole nother year. Oh, that's just so sad.
Well, that's because the next day she has to start her weaving again, and she has another year worth of work that she has to accomplish. Like, she can't skip a day of work.
Very severe work ethic there. What kind of cloth does she weave? I was wondering that too. Like, what kind of cloth do you make in heaven?
The story doesn't go into much detail about exactly what she makes. But we do know that basically she wove cloth and that from it she could make beautiful clothes. So whether it was clothes for herself or for like the women up in the Milky Way, or whether it was just for the men or for both, we can't answer that question.
But it's very important work, and that she cannot meet Hikoboshi.
Exactly. There is just so many clothes that need to be made on a yearly basis up in the Milky Way that she has no time to go and meet her husband. So yeah, it's a very short story. That is ultimately the story of Tanabata, the story of Hikoboshi and his wife, Orehime. However, as Heather is in charge of songs and poems with this podcast, we have found a traditional Tanabata song for this episode that she is going to attempt to recite for you on this episode. Now, Heather, are you wanting me to say the English, or do you want to do the English today?
I can do the English today. The translation is, the bamboo leaves rustle, shaking away in the leaves. The stars twinkle on the gold and silver grains of sand. The 5-color paper strips I have already written. The stars twinkle, and there they will watch us.
So do you think for this song, at least, where it refers to the gold and silver grains of sand, that they refer to the stars above, or perhaps the banks of the river in heaven?
I think it must, that makes sense to me, referring actually to like the Milky Way, like guessing the river bank should be part of the Milky Way. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. That's what I I would understand from that.
So we talked about the fact that she's a weaver and that she makes clothing. So why do you think as part of this festival they write their wishes on paper strips instead of like cloth? I feel like cloth would relate more to the origins of the story in itself.
That's a really good question. So I didn't really see anything in just the beginnings of the research why paper strips were used instead of cloth. I mean, if we had to guess, the paper strips sort of do look similar to cloth, and paper is a lot cheaper than actual cloth too. So it'd be a lot cheaper to have one piece of paper cut out several strips as opposed to fabric. Especially in olden times, fabric was really expensive to make. So the paper is much easier. It's also easier to dispose of because you don't want to keep your wishes each year. You make your wish, you send it on its way, and you don't keep the strip for each year. You make a new one each year. So more biodegradable.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That makes sense.
So, have you written your Tanabata wish yet?
I have not written my Tanabata wish yet. I still need to decide what I will wish for this year. But once I do, don't worry, I will let you know what I have decided.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited. If I had many strips of paper, my second wish would probably be for some delicious cake.
But what kind of cake?
Oh, let's see. It's summertime. There are so many fruits coming available now, and I live near Okayama Prefecture, which is famous for peaches. So a cake, some kind of cake with fruit, perhaps peaches.
Are you sure you're not just thinking about peaches again because of episode 1 and your obsession way back then about the giant peaches of heaven?
I think it's going to be a recurring theme, like me and the peaches. Possibly.
It's just going to keep coming back. You're never going to let it go.
No, maybe not. Oh, but they are really good. Japanese peaches are good. You can see my obsession. Also, have you walked by the stores or the shops? So in downtown, I was walking yesterday, and most of the stores had the bamboo, and they had the Tanabata strips of paper tied in the bamboo. Have you seen that?
Actually, have not. Not yet. There is a shrine behind my house, but it's up in the trees, so if they've hung stuff up, I haven't been able to see it. But around the corner from me, they normally close the roads off near my house for festivals, and they have been building like the frames and everything ready for Sunday. So I think probably tomorrow, or at least on Sunday, the day of the festival, everyone will turn up and start hanging up their wishes for the festival. So I'll try and get some pictures if I can. Post them up on the website if possible.
Yeah, if you get a chance to go, definitely. I wish I could have gone to that last year. It sounds really amazing. Maybe I'll look for something this weekend too then.
Sounds good. So yeah, that's gonna about do it for us guys for this episode. We hope you enjoyed the short story about Tanabata. If you're in Japan, we hope you can see it one day. But actually, if you are coming to Japan next year, and you're here around August, on those few days where they have the Tanabata festival, they already have it scheduled in for next year. So if you're here during August next year, maybe for the Olympics and things, the Tanabata festival will be held on August the 25th next year.
And if you're not in Japan, but you want to make your own Tanabata wish, then just get a strip of paper. Construction paper works great. Write your wish and just tie it in a tree. You don't need to have bamboo. You can tie it in a tree, tie it in a plant, or even just maybe hang it on your wall. There's no need to not have a wish for this year, even if you aren't in Japan.
Yeah. So, thank you very much for listening. If you want to check out more about Japanese history, then you can look at our database online, which is historyofjapan.co.uk. You can follow us on Twitter at A History of Japan. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, we post pictures now and then as we're exploring and looking around Japan. You can find that at nexus_travels. That's NEXUS_travels. Because all our social media has different names. Once again, guys, thank you very much for listening, and we hope you tune in next week for our next episode. That's it from me, so see you next time.
Mata ne!
Bye, guys.